The views and opinions expressed by this program's hosts, guests, listeners, and viewers are solely the views and opinions of the original source who expresses them. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of TV5 Network Incorporated, its subsidiaries and affiliates, and their respective stockholders, directors, officers, and employees.
Sounding off from Los Angeles, the undisputed king of podcasting, who's all about the good times, Mo Twister. Representing New York City, a social media monster and co-creator of the Not Bill Walton Twitter feed, Chris Savage. All the way from Sydney, Australia, a basketball media veteran and unapologetic cultural critic, Bradford Graham. Holding it down from Manila, a seasoned sportscaster with the studio skills to pay the bills, Gino Rufino. This is Full Court Report.
All right, welcome to the Full Court Report. It is NBA playoff week, and it's nice to get a show knocked out here this time of the year in the NBA season. We're four guys in four different cities, and let's kick it off. My name is Mo. I am in the West Coast. You have the two East Coast kids over there. That's Brad Graham and Chris Savage, and in Manila, Philippines is Gino Rufino. Guys, what a great week of basketball it has been. The first 2 days of the NBA playoffs, and I'm going to lead a discussion off with 12 minutes on my first quarter talking about who else? The Warriors, man. Dogs. They went out and handled their business. Of course, clearly with a thrashing, I'd say, over the Houston Rockets. I think many people thought that was going to happen. 104-78 was the final there. They came out sharp. They didn't seem to be intimidated. At least I'm talking about Steph Curry by all of the Patrick Beverley bumps and kind of, if you want to call it dirty or hard play or whatever it may have been, to try to intimidate him. He had a solid game. I wanted to ask you guys what was your take on Game 1 with the defending champs?
I guess it's what we expected, right? I mean,
sure.
The Warriors came in they came in on a high. They broke the record. And the Rockets look like they checked out very early in that game. But it's kind of like what's happened so far throughout the regular season, and then it's carrying over into the playoffs.
Well, awful game by James Harden here, though. No. 17 points. He was shot from 7 for 19, which I guess, that's bad, but it's not awful for his standards. But just there was something else there, though, man.
Yeah.
6 turnovers.
0. He didn't get to the free throw line once. I mean, that's so uncharacteristic for Harden.
That's right.
I mean, you really do expect him to just barrel his way through, get crafty, do Euro steps, travel his way to the hoop, and then get a foul and get to the line. I mean, for him not to get to the line once is absurd. And
sure.
If we're gonna see more of this from Harden, this is over in 4.
Yeah.
It's Harden in the playoffs, man.
It's all in Harden's back. I mean, he only had one more field goal than turnover. It was an awful game, and this is what we expected. The Warriors were just going to absolutely thump them. The bigger concern for the Warriors in the series, Mo, you mentioned Patrick Beverley. It's especially with the Rockets having nothing to lose, how much is Patrick Beverley going to try to antagonize him or play very physical on him? We've already seen now a little bit of a hiccup with his the ankle situation with Curry. Beverley has nothing to lose, so that's something the Warriors have to take a look at, consider with his minutes, especially as the Warriors get up with big leads.
This team could really spoil the party if the Warriors aren't careful. I mean, it's not that they're going to lose a game this series, but it's like inside of those games, it's not going to take much to really disrupt this Golden State's ability to, continue this momentum all the way through to the finals. And you don't want to see an injury occur. You don't want to see Beverly sort of, refer to these sort of roughhousing tactics. And, again, this series could get ugly fast if we're not careful, because I don't think the Rockets like the idea of getting blown out every night.
Well, that's what's going to happen. But are you, just kind of get to your comment, are you saying that maybe we should if we were Warriors management, sit Steph out game 2? I mean, he has the injury, as you brought up.
You can't stay lucky forever, and in this case, it's not worth the risk. I mean, play Sean Livingston 35 minutes a night, let him get some real sort of playoff sort of wear under his belt, and I think Golden State needs to sort of do what they can to protect their stars. And
is it because Patrick Beverly is it because Patrick Beverly you feel is dirty, or you think this ankle injury is the issue and you want to limit him, especially in the first round?
It's a combination.
Yeah, I would say it's a little everything here. I would say Beverly's going to be out there deliberately to sort of disrupt him, get under his skin. I think it's going to be Steph sort of, needing to be a little protected for the long sort of haul here. And I also think that it's not just Beverly, but all of the Rockets, I think, are capable of, you just don't know what you're going to get. And if they get, he drives the lane and Dwight Howard says, I'll just take a technical on this, things could just kind of get ugly. And I don't want to see it go down that path. I mean, the Warriors can be so clinical and the Rockets now so unpredictable that who knows what happens here. I mean, we've already seen one scuffle.
Golden State's not a bunch of softies either, and I mean, not to put them in a fight who'd win, but they've got a couple of bruisers out there. I mean, your biggest bruiser on the Rockets is Dwight Howard, Mr. All Smiles. So I mean, I think definitely they'd kind of intimidate back. I want to just kind of touch up more on this whole Patrick Beverly thing. Yeah, well, clearly he has a incident in historically where he took out a star point guard in Russell Westbrook in the playoffs. But both Draymond Green and Steph defended him, saying, "Hey, we have respect for Patrick Beverly in the game he plays. That's hard playoff basketball. It's intimidating. He is who he is." And both of them, including Draymond especially, said, "No, I like a guy like that. I completely respect the guy who behaves that way."
Would you guys consider, I mean, Steph didn't practice today, but would you guys consider sitting him out a game and see how they do? Because I think they can still beat them without Steph.
They can, but I don't think you risk it. I just don't think you risk it. I mean, listen, Steph played 19 minutes last game. I think you just kind of keep it around there, maybe in the teens, just to kind of make sure that the ankle doesn't give him any trouble. But you don't risk losing a game on your home court or this early.
But Mo, you're trying to define dirty play and hard-nosed play. I say, what's the difference? If it means a player is susceptible to hurting himself, especially if it's your star player, really, what's the difference?
Yeah, but here's the difference. Here's the difference. Listen, there's two things. Number one, you can't risk losing a game, as I said, at home. Here's number two. You start protecting Steph and making it look like you're scared of a Patrick Beverly. Come round two, whoever they face is going to rough him up. And then in the conference finals, they're going to rough him up. And in the finals, they're going to rough him up. You can't show this kind of weakness in this stage of the season.
If they can't overcome that type of weakness, I mean, no offense, they don't deserve to be the champs. Just being honest.
But more to that point, Mo, specifically speaking, Steph's a light little guy. I mean, the whole point of Iverson, getting knocked around so much and bouncing back was this is the nature of playoff basketball. When there's a target on someone's back, the big guys, the strong guys, the bruisers, whatever you call them, whatever you want, they're always going to go after the little guys. They're always going to try to hurt them. They're going to try to rough them up. And it's up to Bogut now to sort of lay Patrick Beverly on his butt and let him know that he's not going to stand for it. And we're going to see a number of these. Right. And that's what I'm saying. It's going to be a case here now where these guys are going to get feisty and, or touchy. And it's going to be, a really sort of, I think, physical series now because the standard's been set and the expectation here is like the Rockets don't like getting their butts kicked. They don't like being embarrassed. There's a lot of ego and pride on the line for the Rockets, but unfortunately they're facing such a clinical team in Golden State that they're just going to annihilate them, and I think it's going to really upset the Rockets, and we might see them do some sort of silly crazy little things and be try to play a certain way because they're going to resort to desperate measures because really that's all they've got.
Wow, that's really how you guys look at it, huh? That they kind of, in a non-professional way, they're just going to go, listen, I don't like being embarrassed. I'm
they're so outclassed. They're so outclassed, and they're basically in a position here where their only real fighting chance here to take down the Warriors is to do and resort to things. I mean, it's a 7-game series. Do the Rockets honestly think they've got 4 victories in them? Maybe 2 at best. Yeah. But there's no way they've got 4. And the only way they've got 4 is if Steph's not there. And if Steph's not there, well, maybe they have to nudge him closer to being not there versus just letting him rest and sit and Kerr being all about minute management.
Well, plus this is a historic team. They've heard it all year. Now they're playing it. This is supposed to be the title run that starts for the Warriors to ascend to maybe the greatest team of all time, and they're just the first stepping stone for that. So they know they can't beat them. I hate to say that they're going to cross the line of professionalism, but I mean, you have people like Patrick Beverly.
And it wouldn't be the first time it's happened either, right, Chris? I mean, we've seen a number of playoff series resort to sort of fights and all sorts of scuffles and injuries, and like the NBA's got a long history of this stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's not like these are the first 2 teams to not like each other.
And there's a difference between what the old school guys call the old school play of heart, play of type fouls, and to what we've seen before that Patrick Beverley has done. I mean, there is a difference. I mean, I know what Steph and Draymond are trying to do.
I don't want to say what Patrick Beverley has done, though, because, I mean, are we confirmed that what Patrick Beverley did to Russell Westbrook was really, in fact, dirty, or was it hard-nosed, as Chris said? Dirty is Andrew Bynum clotheslining J.J. Barea at the end of that series some years back. That's dirty when you're actually doing something like that, but playing the way Patrick Beverley does, I don't see that being dirty.
No, I'm look, he's hard-nosed, yes. He does play, hard, and which is good. But there's gonna be a moment in time when there's gonna be a chance for him to whether it's accidentally or not, that he's gonna injure somebody in the play. I mean, he's done it before, and if he does it to somebody who is going to be the MVP, who's the best player on the best team, I mean, it's just going to ruin the season for all the Warrior fans out there.
But Brad, this is where you jump in and go, hell no, does the NBA allow this, considering Steph is their biggest star?
What I was going to say was that I could see a frustration foul resulting in something that is an unfortunate injury. It's not like they're intentionally going to go out and hurt him. It's playoff basketball. It's tougher. It's slower. It's more grueling. I mean, the refs swallow their whistles through patches of all these games. It's good for TV. Fans want to see it. They can take a hit. They know that. And it's a case of how you bounce back. Now, the referees are going to get, told from the NBA head office, look out for this, be careful with this, call a couple of tech fouls early on in the next game, make sure these things don't get out of control, because the last thing you want to see is your prized player on the sidelines. If he's resting for minutes, so be it. But if he's there because Patrick Beverley dived for a loose ball and used his body to sort of shield the ball and, somehow took out Steph's legs, then it's like, hey, we don't want to see that happen because it's going to hurt us as a product. So the NBA will say something, will remind the referees to be cautious of it, but they're not going to interfere. It's competition. It's combat. It's battle. I mean, they're going to let them go out there and contest this. The ball's thrown up. Hey, you want to beat them, you got to go out and actually beat them. So I think we're going to see sort of an interesting sort of back and forth now. But what I like about it is it's injected a lot of life into this series.
Yes,
sure.
And if we're going to see a game where they potentially arrest Steph or even sit him, it is game 2. They are playing Oakland. He is fresh off the ankle. Right. Maybe not push it anyway and see what they have to do to get it back to 100%. So, I mean, that's going to be kind of a nice, interesting story going into game 2 as well. I mean, the Warriors win regardless. You said don't chance it. I mean, come on. I mean, what are you talking about here? In Oakland, even without Steph, I don't think it's a big deal.
Well, and this is the other thing, right?
I don't know. I don't agree. But yeah, go ahead.
Say Steph, but say Steph sits, right? Isn't it healthy and good for the Warriors to learn how to play on a night that he's either cold
not
or
in the playoffs? You learn on another night, but not on the playoffs.
A-seed it is. It's fine.
Oh, man.
It's not your typical 8 seed. This is a conference finalist last year. But
who's gotten much worse, though? I mean, this is not the same Raptors team as last year.
Sure, but I get...
They're barely an 8 seed.
Right, all right. Let's let me move on to something real quick here. Yeah, we got 1 minute. Well, listen, Jinno said they're going to last 6.
I said if it was the same team that showed up in last year's playoffs, but it's not. Clearly not.
He did have a discussion.
We got a minute left. I got to be real quick here with this. I don't know how much time we have, but 538 came out with this article that I thought was rather amusing. It was the NBA players that no one passes the ball to this season, and they listed a bunch of players who rarely get a ball actually passed towards them. And of course, you're going to hear some of these no names like your Bismack, Biombos, and your Luke Mambu Mote and whatever, but there's some kind of noteworthy people on the top of this list, like Hassan Whiteside. Man, Whiteside doesn't get a pass to him. He gets a pass to him once every 1.8 minutes. Andre Drummond, 1.7 minutes before Andre Drummond gets a pass. Cup of coffee?
I mean, how is he not getting the ball? What is the story here?
Andre Drummond, exactly, right? So, but guess what? So you look at this list, and they've named like 20 players here. There's not one guy on this list that plays for the Spurs or the Warriors or these teams that move the ball, and what you said, Brad, earlier today was clinical. So let me just call a quick 1 minute timeout here and get your thoughts on this. Is it a surprise none of these guys are on this list?
Well, those are big guys that you mentioned. And
Andre Robertson is the shooting guard for OKC.
Okay,
he's tied for first on this list.
But the two main names that you mentioned were Whiteside and Drummond, two teams that are in the playoffs. And the dinosaur, which is the old type center, which they are. I guess that's just part of the way the NBA is nowadays. So it's I'm not surprised.
They're looking for threes. They're looking for threes. They're not looking to feed the post. And I think we're seeing that now in what these numbers are reflecting. And I think it's unfortunate that all the defensive work,
the Spurs are not looking for threes. It's a ball movement here.
Yeah, but not
what
just
I think
that.
is going
if you
on.
could prove, if one of those down low players could prove that they could do more with the ball when they get the ball, then they'd get the ball. They'd pass the ball more to them. That's what it comes down to. They're proving that they're very limited when they get the ball, and they're going to get over their 55% field goal percentage, and they're going to be happy with that.
Fair enough. All right, we got to get out of here. It is the end of our first quarter. You listen to the full quarter report. When we come back, we have more of the show. Don't go away.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
All right, welcome back to the full court report. We have our second quarter, and we are going to New York City. Talk to Chris Savage, who's got 12 minutes on the clock. Chris, where are you going with this one?
I'm going with Cavs Pistons, where the number 1 seeded Cavs were pushed by the fiery, young, inexperienced Detroit Pistons, but the Cavs pull it out 106-101. And guess what? It's true. Kevin Love does have a pulse. He does have a pulse with his 28 points and 2 big threes down the stretch. Overall, the big three, who obviously were very unhealthy last playoffs, are coming into these playoffs healthy and on a mission. Combined for 81 points, 24 rebounds, and 18 assists. But it really was a back-and-forth game. It really was the Pistons showing that they weren't going to be intimidated by the best team in the East. At the end of the game, though, the better talented team won. So, starting off with that, guys, and the Cavs having to come back to win this game, would love to get your take on what you saw from this game.
You know what? Remember in the last episode when we were kind of talking playoff previews, and I said that this series kind of reminded me of what the Bulls and the Bullets were back in the day when it was still a sweep, but every game was pretty close. And I really do think so. I think Detroit is that hard-nosed type of team with the right kind of talent in the terms of they have an all-star big, and then they have a pretty good guard. And look at what Caldwell Pope did, 21 points as well. So I mean, they have some talent in this team, and the makeup of the team that can push the Cavs. I think ultimately the talent will win maybe 5 in 5 games, but they can each game will be interesting.
It's funny, Chris, because Detroit has a lot of just confidence. I mean, they truly
Yes.
believe in what they're doing. I mean, they know that they're outmatched here, but man, like they're really taking it to the Cavs. What I don't like from the Cavaliers standpoint is it required 41 minutes from LeBron. I mean, that's a lot of miles and a lot of sort of energy expended really early on in a series, and you really got to be careful. I mean, Golden State has the cushion of being able to rest their stars. Cleveland might not get that. I mean, they might have to play, Kyrie and LeBron, close to 40 minutes a night just to beat the Pistons, which, for my money, isn't really favorable for them over the long course. I mean, I think, if they have to play that sort of extended, for those sort of durations all the way through the East, man, like they're going to really be worn out come the finals time. And that's what I don't want to see happen. I really want to see LeBron get some time off now. I know he sort of didn't shoot them that much or that well against Detroit. Still put up 22 and 11, still, serviceable LeBron. I mean, he's still going to go out there and command, the game whenever he has to. And he's still clearly the most talented player in the conference. But, yeah, man, I just, don't like the fact that he might not be afforded, a game off, a quarter off, a night off. And
it's all of them, Brad. The three of them, the big three, averaged 39 minutes. And the next biggest scorer after them was J.R. Smith with 9. And, of course, J.R. Smith took 9 shots to get those 9. And you have Dellavedova, your boy, with 7 points. So after them, they need to come. These big three need to come up and perform in all these big games or close games, or someone else needs to step up. So that's definitely a question everyone's going to be watching down the stretch.
Well, and that's it. I mean, that's the crazy thing with this first outing. I mean, game one, it took Kevin Love, Kyrie, and LeBron to all put up, over 20 for them just to beat the Pistons. And they were at home, which is kind of this whole, telling sort of side of it.
That's because the Pistons played really well, though. I think this is the best we're going to see the Pistons
You're saying this is a one-off Pistons performance? You don't think you'll see them jump out of the gates?
It's not that it's one-off. That it has to happen every single night for them to be close. Like, everybody's got to contribute. I mean, when you have Caldwell Pope dropping 21, he's not going to do that every single game. He needs to do that for this.
And by the way,
listen, you have to hear what I said. Right, you have to hear what I say word for word and not not assume I said he's garbage. I'm saying he has to score. But I'm not saying you're saying he's good. Yeah, he's good. He's not going to score 21 points on the Cavaliers. Good though.
He could put up 20 a night. There's nothing saying he can't.
Yeah, but Brad, to Mo's point, they shut him down in the second half.
He has to do this also though on a consistent night-to-night basis in both halves, as Chris was saying, for them to stand a chance. They have no bench in Detroit, so the bench there is made up of Steve Blake, who Chris was making fun of on Twitter just a few minutes ago. Reggie Bullock, Aaron Baines. Who the hell is I don't even know a photo of that guy. So there's not, and these are the rotation bench players to go up against this very talented Cleveland team. Everything has to go right for them to keep it close, and not everything goes right every night. Right. And that's why I say they're going to get this bench.
I think you're
discrediting last quarter, Andre Drummond,
of.
14 shots. Andre Drummond, 14 shots. This is their all-star. He scores 13 points on 14 shots. Obviously, he usually shoots better than that, but he's not getting a lot of touches if he's only putting that amount
that's
up.
Because they shot lights out in the first half. They didn't need to go to him because I was so hot from behind the arc.
They did need him in the fourth quarter, though, Brad. They definitely needed him in the fourth quarter, and they didn't have it.
Listen, I like Detroit. I want them to do well. I'd love to see them upset.
Win 4-1.
Right, but I would love to see Detroit upset Cleveland,
I'm just saying,
man.
They hung with them in game one, and I don't think anyone thought they were going to push the Cavs this hard.
What, moral victories? When did we become the moral victory show? They hung with them? Who cares?
That's the difference, Mo. In the playoffs, you play a team 7 times, so it's not about moral victories. It's kind of the next chapter, game 2, game 3. It kind of tells you, maybe predicts or doesn't predict what's going to happen next. So I understand when you have to start looking at, well, they played this well, they pushed this hard, and to Gino's point, there's been series where teams get swept and they push hard. Well, maybe it means that the first game in Detroit, especially how fired up the Pistons are, maybe it means something different. I don't know. Yep. I still think that the Cavs will probably win in 4 or 5, but the Pistons really showed me something the other day, today.
Yeah, when Game 3 happens and Detroit, what they saw here in Game 1, when the fans in Detroit, gather in that arena in the first home game, and how long has the Pistons haven't been in the playoffs? Imagine the excitement in Detroit. Wow,
Detroit's bench probably awesome. Made up of fans. These are a bunch of guys I've never even heard of, man. Listen, the Pistons have a solid 5, but that 5 has to all play very, very well for them to be in contention of beating Cleveland.
To your point, the Cavs clearly turned it on defensively in the second half. I mean, Detroit only finished with 73 shots. I mean, they were up. Detroit was at 58 something or whatever at the half. I mean, they had the lead, they had control of the game, and then Cleveland, turned the switch on and was able to bring it home. So I'm not saying that Detroit has anybody that can contain, LeBron at his best, or the big 3 in Cleveland when they're firing on all cylinders. But I don't quite think anyone expected Detroit to challenge them the way that they did in this opening game. And I think it's a wake-up call to Cleveland, and maybe this is the wake-up call they needed. I mean, the fact that they could right the ship at home, and again, we'll get into some of the other playoff series later, but Detroit could have easily stolen game 1 and turned the whole series on its head. And, it's one of those, the best thing about game 1 in any series is you can really catch a team by surprise. I mean, Cleveland probably thought they were going to coast. Tyronn Lue probably thought he was going to be able to rest LeBron a little in the fourth. Yeah, LeBron probably thought he could rest himself in the fourth as head coach of the team. So for me, it's kind of this situation where, these teams are maybe more evenly matched, or maybe the competition coming down to the way the ball bounces on any given night, to use that cliche, rings true here, because Detroit has some firepower when they're on, and Cleveland, you're not always going to get great nights from Kyrie and Kevin Love. You're going to get it from LeBron, but you're not always going to get it from the other guys. And so this series might not be as, I guess, wide apart as maybe everyone thought going in, given they're a 1 and an 8 seed. Maybe it's more like a 3 and a 6 seed or something, in terms of the way they've played in game 1.
But see
Right.
how
So,
kind
Mo, I'll
of
turn to you on this one. You know, you
Yep.
spoke about the Pistons bench, and we're looking a little bit ahead of not just this series, but we could look a little ahead. Brad brought it up. The big three aren't going to average 27 points per each of them. Where else are they going to get offense for the rest of this team to be a legitimate to legitimately beat teams easily down the stretch here?
Yeah, so you're talking about Cleveland? I'm sorry, or Detroit?
Yeah, Cleveland. I'm talking about Cleveland now. Where else are they
Cleveland,
going
I
to get
mean,
it past the big three?
Yeah, I mean, J.R. Smith gets hot on occasion come, playoff time. Tristan Thompson finished with 2 points. That's not, he only took one shot. There are nights he can pull out a double-double. There are backup plans on Cleveland. There are no backup plans in Detroit is my point. You can have a Shumpert maybe blow up for 12, and that's blowing up for him. Channing Frye didn't even play in this game, and there's some offense there if you need it to be there. So, again, there are ways to score the basketball if the big three aren't playing well. Detroit, no, none.
Okay,
Zero.
good point. Switching over, I'm going to talk about Reggie Jackson, who is one of the few players on this team with some playoff experience. Got a big technical foul towards the end of the game here. It was big, and you can't have a technical foul, but do we like the type of floor general Reggie Jackson is here in the playoffs? We like his fire, or is he a guy who needs to really tone it down a bit?
I like the fire. I think that he needs to continue to have that fire, and I think he is the only one with playoff experience here when he was with OKC. But if you don't have that fire in somebody like Jackson, I know sometimes it's I guess it's a little too much, but it's better to be too much than too little.
Okay,
in that sense, because these guys, like everybody, we all say they're outmatched, they're outclassed. They don't have anything else outside of that starting five, and there's no plan B. And so you need to ride at plan A. And if you're gonna get if you're gonna get teed up for it, so be it. I mean, you're gonna have to pull out all the stops to be able to get this done.
Right,
Yeah,
and it's
no,
not
I
like
like
he's
the
in
fire.
jeopardy. I mean, Reggie Jackson isn't DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, Reggie Jackson could probably pick up 5 more technicals, and he's not going to have to sit out a game. I mean, it's just one of those things that, he's in a position where he's the leader, he's the spiritual leader of this team. I mean, they probably can only go as far as Reggie Jackson can take them, and I think it's healthy for them. And Van Gundy's going to want him being out there, being boisterous, and being aggressive, and getting in referees' faces, and showing these guys, hey, we've got real fight in us, and we're not going to roll down or roll over for anyone. And I kind of think that not only is Reggie Jackson their best chance at winning, but I think he also indicates how limited this team really is. I mean, if Reggie Jackson's your best player or your most dangerous player, I think there's a real ceiling there. I think that signals that this team really can't advance past the first round, because if Reggie, if it takes Reggie Jackson to score 40 points for you to, win a game, then like coming back to Mo's point about, how many weapons they actually have available to them.
Of course.
Detroit is a flawed team, but I think we saw some great things out of them, coming back to moral victories, whatever you want to call it. I just liked where Detroit came with the poise, with the aggression. They didn't win, but I think Van Gundy can show this team when they watch tape the next day before they go into game 2. Here's what we did right. Here's what we did wrong. And absolutely, let's exploit this team in a number of ways. Like Cleveland also showed that they're not invincible. And I like where this series is heading. And I think that this series could go to 6.
Stan Van has had some success against LeBron James and the Cavs. So
he has. And I think Reggie Jackson's fire could steal a game here over in Detroit. Could happen, but
sure.
Right. And who's Cleveland's equivalent? Like, who's going to step up from Cleveland and do these sorts of things and be fiery and get them motivated? I mean,
your boy Dellavedova, he'll step on his leg or something.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, that's the whole point, right? I mean, don't you want to see LeBron occasionally get a technical and get his team fired up and do a sort of a number of things that are going to sort of be helpful? I think sometimes these things can be used tactically in order to advance the team and get them all on the same page. I think you can rally around this stuff sometimes, and I would like to see how Detroit, goes into game 2 now and uses Reggie Jackson's fire.
Absolutely here, guys.
I think we're done. I think with our quarter. Do you have a question though you want to throw out? Yeah, we're done, right? What does clock say, Gino?
Hey, I was talking about LeBron.
Clock is all 0.
Yeah, it's at 0. Time's up.
All right,
we gotta take a break. Sorry,
up.
buddy.
Boom.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we have a halftime show for you guys. You're listening to the Full Court Report. Don't go away.
Welcome to the initial episode of No Holds Barred with the Dean, Finito Henson. We ask the questions, you get the answers.
Did you feel rough that you didn't get the Best Import Award?
Our best import.
If you were the commissioner of the PBA for a day, what would be the first thing you'd do?
I'm not telling you nothing.
Tell us, Leland, last November, when Samboy, your husband, suffered cardiac arrest, What was your feeling? How were you able to cope? And what kind of magnitude of expenses are you facing?
It's not good.
It's halftime here in the Full Court Report, and this is the time which we kind of take a little moment away from the game of basketball, and we talk about things in pop culture and life and so on and so forth. But to kick things off, I want to just plug something here really quickly that is basketball related, because we saw the final game of Kobe Bryant, and we talked about it in the last episode as well, but we were recording the show as the game was going on. So Kobe Bryant walks away from the game of basketball with scoring 60 points, the most points scored by any player in the regular season, and he finished up with 60 points in 50 shots. But it was a fantastic send off for one of the game's best players in the history of the game. So I just want to talk a little bit about the best athlete finale that never was, or that never happened. So let's go around the room and
right, because
discuss.
we can't all be Kobe, right?
We can't all be Kobe.
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably aside from winning a championship, that was the way to go out. So
no, that was sure. That looks, Gino, you know me. I've gone on the record, and I know this isn't about basketball, but let me quickly just say here, that was one impressive contest to watch, and all credit to Kobe and the spectacle that he put on.
Yeah.
He didn't want a farewell tour, but anyways, he gave us one, and he gave us one for the record books.
Gave us a big one.
So let me just jump in here and then say, in Australia, rugby league's a big sport, a working class sport. These guys get so busted up from playing that they rarely go out on top. Mm-hmm. And my favorite player growing up was a guy named Tim Brasher. This guy was lightning, man. This guy could score from all over the field. Incredible player to watch. And now he's a golf caddy, I believe. So, he's got a second career still in sports. But these guys rarely finish on a high note. I mean, some of them don't even win the championship, and they always end up sort of, getting these really sort of tacky jobs elsewhere. Some of them are car salesmen, whatever the case may be. And I would have loved, being my favorite player, to see him go out winning some sort of championship trophy. So Tim Brasher, man, loved watching you play as a kid, and absolutely wished you didn't just sort of limp to the finish line and, have like one of those injury plagued seasons and then just sort of bow out mid-season and nothing come of it. But yeah, I mean, we can all hope, right? We can all hope there's a Kobe finale in every athlete we grew up admiring, but wasn't to be. Yeah. But yeah, 100-meter try, as we would say, 100-meter try from Tim Brasher would have just been, for me, pure icing on the career cake.
All right. Chris, how about you?
Well, I mean, first of all, what a year of send-offs, watching Peyton Manning win the Super Bowl and Kobe Bryant his last game. So unbelievable. But for me, and Brad's going to hate me for this one, it's Lennox Lewis. And here's the reason why. Lennox Lewis fought Vitaly Klitschko, where Lennox Lewis won the fight eventually because Klitschko's eye was just so cut up badly. But Klitschko was pounding Lennox Lewis, pounding him throughout the fight, just crushing Lennox Lewis badly. And of course, Lewis won the fight. He almost felt as he escaped. He got out of there. He did escape. Thank goodness for him. Vitaly Klitschko's eye went bad, and then he retired, quote unquote, on top as a champion, still in good health, still could fight. And for me, I believe the motivation was he just didn't want to fight Klitschko again, walked away. We never saw that rematch. So for me, that is a send-off that never happened, the farewell that never happened, for him to try to go out and prove he can beat the guy again, that the first one was a fluke. So I'm going with Lennox Lewis. Sorry, Brad. That's the one I pick, and I would have loved to see them fight again.
All right, Mo.
Yeah, I think Chris is kind of on the right line of thought here when it comes to the fight sports, the combat sports. These guys that you root for, you think they're invincible. Then when you see them at the end getting their asses kicked, it really kind of breaks your heart, man. So there are a couple guys out there like a George Foreman who can go out and style late in a career because he wins a championship at 40 or whatever. But Mike Tyson, I know you're friends with Mike, Chris, I believe, and just to kind of see him on his decline towards the end, they're losing 3 out of the last 4. Most of them by knockout. It's just heartbreaking because you had a guy that was bigger than life and so dominating. I think that there's no tour there. There's no nice goodbye for Mike Tyson. Maybe he deserves it for his out of the ring behavior. But I think I see the same now with like an Anderson Silva. If you guys follow the UFC,
yeah, sure.
When you think about Silva as being probably greatest of all time, people would say, and then all of a sudden his last couple fights have been so awful that you're thinking about stripping that title when at some point in his career he truly was just a freaking phenomenal fighters. So I think it's the fight game guys that don't get the nice farewell towards the end there. I'd probably throw Tyson or Silva.
It's very rare that you see these guys in full contact sports know when to walk away. And I think GSP was one of those guys that was able to do it. And he knew that he probably lost that match, but he knew that it was time to quit. So I mean, but it's very rare. But for my choice here, it's about this athlete who joined one final team when he was way past his prime, kind of like what Michael Jordan did with the Wizards. We all want to forget that. But it's Michael Schumacher. This guy dominated Formula One for so long, whether it was with Benetton and Ferrari, and then he decides to come back with Mercedes, and he didn't quite have the pace. And not only that, soon after his stint with Mercedes, he got into a very, very critical accident skiing. And this guy is he's a pretty good he knows how to ski, and he got paralyzed, and he was in a coma for so long in the bunny slopes. I mean, it was a freak accident. And up to today, the media is kept out of the loop on what happened to Shumi. And I mean, we know that he's alive.
Shumi.
We didn't get a proper send off from Michael Schumacher.
Shumi.
Sorry, we got to get out of here. You know, funny because Chris, before we go, I thought you were gonna say like a secretariat or something, like went out, and like did a really bad beef jerky, like a horse jerky. Maybe he came and kind of what a great athlete he was, but then ended up in someone's stomach as a meal.
He retired as a stud. What better life is that?
Retired as like a trail mix on a bar.
Trail mix.
He got buried properly. He got buried to a full honored funeral.
Sure, right. Wow. All right, let's get out of here. We'll take a break. When we come back, we have our second half, quarter number 3. Don't go away.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. We have our second half, and we are heading to New York City to talk to Bradford Graham, who's got point guard duties here. Brad, 12 minutes. All yours, man.
Thanks, Mo. Look, let's start with a contest that actually felt like one, and I'm speaking about the Atlanta Hawks narrowly holding off Brad Stevens' pesky Boston Celtics. I don't know if you guys caught this, but Game 1 was an absolute delight for NBA fans, despite neither team really having any draw card players. The outing was highly memorable for the fact that it came down to sort of the last possession of the game. The Hawks were up 19, blew that lead. Final minute was crazy. Isaiah Thomas hit a deep 3 to sort of, bring it within one possession. What do you guys make of this opening contest between Celts Hawks? I mean, it's obviously tightly fought, contested series. Can it go the distance?
I mean, yeah, it can go the distance. I think we saw it Game 1 that this team, this series can go the distance. But we take a little bit of time to recognize the new big 3 in Bazemore, Horford, and Teague. I know Millsap didn't put up a lot of points, but those 3, I mean, they were just scoring left and right. Every time it's turned around, it was, the ball was going to the 3 of them, and they were at an efficient rate too, scoring points. That's what impressed me the most about the Hawks, just those 3 being able to take over the game. And then, we saw Isaiah Thomas, who, I joke around about superstar. We haven't anointed him yet, but he was superb at times and really kept the Celtics up and in the game.
Well, no, he did late, Chris, but, 8 from 21 from the field. I mean, I'm not sure you want Isaiah Thomas necessarily. I mean, he's a high-volume shooter. I mean, he's obviously a playmaker and a scorer, but, man, I mean, I guess what are their other options in Boston?
Yeah, I mean, he's
but
a
still,
point guard,
I mean...
Brad. He's a point guard. He's still got 8 assists, and the big number is 3 turnovers. Very low for someone who held the ball as much as he did.
Well, no, and that's it. I mean, I'm not going to sort of dwell on specifics like turnovers for too long, but I mean, the fact that this game only finished with 21 total turnovers, I mean, 11 from Boston, I think 10 from Atlanta. I mean, both of them showed real poise, real control. I think this game, like I said, it was just a really highly entertaining basketball match. I mean, Dikembe Mutombo was on the sidelines watching, losing his mind. It was one of those things. The Hawks were, well out ahead, and they blew a lead. And I just think what we're seeing here is a clash of sort of two different styles, two different teams built two different ways. And I don't know if I can pick this. I thought that this series might have been, really Atlanta's to lose, but now I'm like, you know what, man? Boston's in this. Like, they're really in this more than I gave them credit for heading into the series.
Well, I mean, are they really two different styles, Brad? The one thing they have in common is they both play defense when it counts, not when it counts. I mean, they play tough-nosed defense, both these teams, and they have coaches that are defense-oriented coaches. So that's the one common denominator for both of them, and that's what also is going to keep a competitive series going on for 7 games.
Yeah, I think this can go to distance, or maybe at least six games. But I mean, this is one of those series that when I looked at the playoff picture, it's like, wow, this is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good one. It was going to be, I had to pick some of the goods that what I felt was going to be a good series, and this is one of the ones that I thought was going to be an entertaining one and one that will be, not really a coin flip. I still think the Hawks are going to win this, but at least something worthwhile watching because the games are going to be close.
Well, and the other thing too here is this Atlanta crowd was into it. They were loud. I mean, usually they don't show up. Usually it's a library down there, but man, they were really, really on the edge of their seats here, and had real color and excitement. And I mean, I made for a great atmosphere. I mean, this to me felt like our actual, first playoff game. I mean, it was just an exciting sort of contest to see. Real arm wrestle between these two. Like I said, Atlanta jumps out to this lead. Boston battles all the way back. And Chris, to come back to the point I made earlier about them being built differently, I mean, Boston feels like they're built from the backcourt forward. Atlanta feels like it's the front court that has the power and then sort of the guards in support. So more just, but Teague, hey, where's Teague been all year? Teague showed up.
Right, I know. But see, that's the thing. He could completely disappear in the next game as well. I mean, he was much more consistent last season. And Kyle Korver shot, 1 for 10 from the field this game. It's kind of odd in that sense.
0 from 7 from deep. I mean,
Korver that's kind of weird. Of course, he's trying to make it up elsewhere with 9 rebounds. But, kind of a weird night for Kyle Korver as well. But, listen, it's going to be a close series. But I thought this was going to be a very boring series. I know the game 1 was exciting, but I was just like, not too excited. You got two teams that don't shoot the basketball very well. Atlanta's, they're not a really high-powered offense. Celtics, likewise. Celtics have awful field goal percentage as a team. So I was just like, this is going to be one that's going to be boring. But, I was wrong. It was a great first game. I just hope they sustain it.
Right, and that's my point, Mo, that, anyone could call Isaiah Thomas a superstar, Chris being obviously the person who does it most often, but I don't think this series has a marquee player, and I think that's why going into it, there wasn't a lot of fanfare about it. I mean, Boston, we know, are good, and Atlanta is, equal records, 48-34 from the regular season. Atlanta's pretty good at home. Boston wins half their games on the road. So, I mean, this was going to be, on paper anyway, at least a good contest. And it definitely, in my opinion, lived up to the hype and felt like real playoff basketball, real NBA high caliber stuff. And, I just thought it was great to see. And, the point and the reason why I wanted to open my quarter with this contest being a sort of a 1-point victory to Atlanta was it completely was at the opposite end of the spectrum from what we saw when the Hornets and Heat clashed and the Thunder and Mavs clashed. I mean, oh my God, put me to sleep. This is ridiculous. I mean, what the hell is going on here? I mean, this NBA is supposed to be, two professional teams going head to head. And instead what we saw was guys from the local YMCA battling actual pros. I think that, I don't know how this gets addressed. I don't know how these teams bounce back. I think Dallas is done. I've never seen a more dismal performance from a Dirk team the entire time he's been in the NBA. I don't want to talk about the Thunder and the Mavericks series because, like I said, man, this thing was just, they got annihilated. They got embarrassed. They really need to, take a hard look at themselves. Dallas looks garbage. And Mark Cuban's face at the end of it, I think, summarized the whole series. Or at least what's going to become of this series, which is just, real scrunched up face, real unhappy with it. But getting into the Hornets Heat, I didn't see this coming. I didn't think the Heat, more importantly, Lou Old Dang, hasn't been in the playoffs for a few years, come out with this, explosive night, 31 points in 33 minutes. 13 shots. What's going on? Did anyone see Lou Old Dang kicking butt like this?
No, I mean, I circled also the Heat Hornets series, thinking that was going to be a good one. I still think it could be, but the way I mean, I don't know if Lou Old Dang can do that again. I mean, Hassan Whiteside played pretty well as well, but the way they dominated that entire game was so bizarre that I was like, wow, I can't believe that. The Hornets, I mean, maybe they're a little shocked that they're actually, in the playoffs and they're in that big stage and they're kind of like deer in headlights in that sense, but they've got to fix this fast. I think this still could be interesting, But hats off to Luol Deng. I mean, where has he been for this most of the season?
It's just crazy to see. Joe Johnson too. I mean, back in the playoffs, doing incredible sort of 26 minutes. 11
ISO
points,
Joe.
5 from 8. Like, yeah, I mean, average Joe showed up. I mean, what the hell's going on here? And it's that funny thing where the fact that the Hornets rolled out Marvin Williams, Cody Zeller, Kemba Walker, Batum, and Courtney Lee, and then you think about it for a minute and you think, I'm not sure that's a playoff lineup. I don't think I trust that team over the course of a 7-game series, whatever this ends up being. But I mean, to only get 91 on the board and to give up 123 points, man, the Hornets are supposed to be a defensive-orientated squad. Like, this is just a shellacking, and how do you bounce back from this? Like, what could Charlotte possibly do from here?
Last episode, not being great at home. I mean, not being great on the road. That they really proved that. But now they're going to start hearing the 11 in a row playoff games that they lost. Now they're going to start hearing it from the media. That's not going to help either. And they have lost 11 in a row, which is the third most of all time. So that's going to be in their heads. And they're not going to be able to escape that.
Right. I mean, again, I talked about this before the series, veteran leadership from the Heat being something that I really think worked in their favor. I mean, we didn't see a great performance from Dwayne Wade, but we saw a solid performance. Dragic was, didn't do a whole lot, but again, the 10 assists, real sort of setup artist. I mean, he played a good, clean game, but the whole, Luol Deng revival, I think, is just, it's crazy. It's like a great meal that you forgot that you could cook, and then all of a sudden it shows up. And, you get to feast, and it's just, between him and Whiteside, carrying this team. Really impressive performance. Again, a battle of two 48-win teams. But for the Heat to come out and put 41 on the board in the opening quarter and then just to get on with the job from there, man, I don't know. I don't know how Charlotte bounces back here. Like, I'm so dumbfounded by this result that I just think that
I mean, I think Charlotte played their game. I mean, they averaged 43% from the field the entire season, and that's what they did tonight. Miami was on fire. Sorry, pun intended. They were on fire. 57% from the field they shot. I mean, listen, when you're shooting close to 60%. Yeah, when you're shooting close to 60% in a game, you're going to win that ball game. Yeah. So it still might be a close game because Miami's still they're not going to be able to keep up that kind of firepower. Charlotte played their game. They just got blown out by a team that was super
right. And it's just the thing. I mean, getting down to like the superstar matchup here, Batum played well. I mean, he was 24 points, 7 from 10 from the line, 7 for 14 from the field. So it wasn't like Batum had an awful game. It wasn't like Charlotte lost because their best player didn't show up. It's just that the guy that he was guarding, Luol Deng, had a career night. Yeah. Like, it was just, it was insane. Like,
and offensively, like, Batum had 1 assist. He's their team leader in that. I think he's a 5.8. Right. There. So they had 11 assists as a team the entire game. So again, it showed Charlotte's weakness, which is they don't put the basket in the ball in the basket at an effective clip. And if you're going to go up against a team on a night that they're on fire, you will lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to start counting the Hornets out, we're going to make that mistake that people did down the stretch of them being a legitimate playoff team. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's not count them out. But on the flip side, Dang, Jeff Teague, this is what the playoffs are all about, man. I mean, guys stepping up out of nowhere, like, wow, they're having that game. And it's a new guy each night.
But isn't this funny? Isn't this what happens year after year after year? Mm-hmm. Is that we have these veteran guys in the NBA and we always discount them, and then we always forget that they're there, and then they've got all this experience and this skill, and somehow we just like completely write them off. We get so caught up in other storylines or other situations and other positions around the league, and then these guys do these things, and then we I guess act a little surprised. But maybe we shouldn't be. Maybe Dang isn't washed up. There's a reason he still starts. There's a reason this team won 48 with him there. I mean, maybe it is a case of next.
Well, listen, Deng hasn't been awful this season. His last month or two has been really more than serviceable.
Show, right?
Of course, because Miami's not as sexy once they lost Chris Bosh. They're kind of an afterthought now. But they've picked up guys. Guys have stepped up in the absence of Bosh, and this is a legit team. Joe Johnson was a great pickup for them. Luol Deng stepped up because he's getting the minutes that that otherwise would have gone to Chris Bosh. So Hassan Whiteside is a freaking monster. So this is a legit squad, and we thought they were going to do well in the beginning of the season. We thought they kind of. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Next game, Amari Stoudemire, 25 points.
Never know. Never know. They got a good bench, man.
We got to get out of here. But before we go, I just want to say, do you think Luol Deng texted all his friends in Chicago and said, "Did you enjoy that show?"
Ooh, how's the golf course?
Sure. Again, but next game it might be Gerald Green. He played 5 minutes this game. He's the type of guy who can completely blow up for 30 points on any given night. So this is a deep team. It's a dangerous team. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have our fourth quarter. You listen to the Full Court Report.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on sports5.ph.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. We will go to our fourth quarter, and Gino Ruffino's got point guard duties there in Metro Manila. Gino, 12 minutes. What's up?
Thank you, Mo. And I want to talk about the, I guess what you want to call, or people call the first upset in the postseason. Number 2 seed Toronto Raptors in the Eastern Conference losing to Paul George. Yeah.
They're going to have to change their name, Gino.
To the Pacers. Come on, guys. Come on.
To the Indiana Paul Georges.
The Georges.
Jesus.
33 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 4 steals. Fantastic performance. 2 blocks to go with that. Fantastic performance from a guy who not that long ago needed crutches to walk around because he broke his leg. But
this is such a dramatic story right now.
And it's fantastic to see Paul George play this way. I mean, fantastic game by the Pacers as a whole, but Paul George specifically, in my opinion, showed why that he should be labeled a superstar. Chris, do you agree with me that he's a superstar?
Yeah, Paul George is a superstar.
All right, it's cool.
Jesus Christ. Just the other day, you were like, Lowry and DeRozan, superstars. Both guys went, 3 for 13, 5 for 19? Where's your superstar now?
It's only one game.
It's one game. It's one game.
Jesus.
You know, the Raptors have a little bit of history of kind of choking up a little bit come the postseason. Mm-hmm. And maybe we saw that a little bit here in the first game. But I just don't want to take anything away from what Paul George did here in the first game of this series. But fellas,
clearly the best player on the court, and I think the numbers reflect that, the eye test reflects that, and we knew going into this series that he had the most talent out of anyone on the two teams. And this is what the Raptors have to deal with. I mean, they lost to Paul Pierce when he was with the Nets because he was still obviously the best closer on the court, and the Raptors now actually seem to have a history of blowing these opening games. It doesn't mean the series is over, but it means that they really, really come out flat. And look, for Toronto to lead 24-19 after one, to go then sort of, I guess, up 1 or 2 at the sort of half, but then to sort of not take care of business at home in the second half, it's kind of like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, how do you let it slip so hard, so fast? It's like... We were talking about this team as contending. Contenders don't do this.
Is this in their head somewhat? Like they know that come playoff time they kind of don't really show up, and maybe the setting's too big for them. I don't know, but is this somewhere mentally that they have to fix? Because I mean, you basically have...
Well, they can't fix it, Gino. Damage is done. You can't fix it. What you have to do is you have to jump in here and basically tell the guys, look, game one's done. Forget it. It's over with. Now we've got to win, 4 out of 6. So it's a case for them of they absolutely must win game 2 now. Like, you have to see a stellar performance from everyone on Toronto, or this series could quickly be over. We're going back to Indiana.
Well,
so
guys,
they're in a dangerous spot. They're in a dangerous spot.
Yeah, clearly dangerous spot. Yes, must-win situation. But as I've said from the beginning of the season, this is not a team built to win a championship. They don't have the star power for it. It's nice to see Kyle Lowry have a good year. It's nice to see DeRozan have a good year, but they're not amazing players, and you need amazing players to step up. Having said that, though, They lost by 10 points with Kyle Lowry shooting 3 for 13 and DeMar shooting 5 for 19. So again, as I almost feel like I'm saying the same thing in every series. These are things that don't happen often with this team. Yeah.
Yeah, but the downside is that if Lowry and DeRozan don't step up, they have no one else to step up for them. Right. And you saw what happened the other night because Lowry and DeRozan had stinkers. The upside is they have Lowry and DeRozan, where in years past they didn't have Lowry at this level. Whereas because the Indiana Pacers from the series,
can't let them
they
off the
had
hook.
Paul George who stepped up. Well, who do they have past Paul George? Not much of that, but so he's going to have to put them on the back every single game for them to win in the series. That's not likely. I just don't see it happening.
Well, no, but that's my point here, Chris, is that Paul George is capable of it. We know he's capable of it, and he had done it for the first 2 months of the season. Paul George can actually carry this team to 4 wins. The difference is we have a yet to see the Toronto guys do the same thing. Now, I know it's game one, small sample size, but, you know, we talk about Mo letting them off the hook with, hey, they had a bad shooting night, they have whatever. Yeah, but that's where superstars find other ways to get the victory. They find other ways to rebound, to assist, you know, to get to the free throw line.
Right, and they can easily rebound next game. Listen, I still think the Raptors are going to win the series. I still think they're going to win the series. There's just no way that this is going to be your Eastern Conference finalist. But again, that's a different conversation for a different time. It's just Toronto is flawed. You know, the jump shooting teams don't win. You know, big series.
They shot 21% at the three-point line versus Indiana's 52%. Like, that's the disparity. That's where the 10 points comes from. I mean, it's one team getting hot from outside and another team being ice cold from outside. But if you want to rely on that, that's fine. But you have to find other ways. I mean, the Raptors outboarded the Pacers. It wasn't like the Pacers had every advantage. But they just seem to want
and that's why the Raptors are a better team. The Raptors will still likely win this series.
Exactly. Well, it's not other ways either. It's not other ways either, Brad. It's both stars on the Raptors playing poorly in one game. I don't think both of them are going to do that again. All you need is one of them to step up, and they should be able to beat the 7-seed Pacers.
That's why. Well, no, not really. Not really. It doesn't have to. No, I disagree. I think again they just shot so poorly that it doesn't have to be Paul George. It could just be any garden variety star on any other playoff team that can beat this Toronto team on a night like this. So before we start again, before we start having 3 boners for Paul George, everybody relax. It was a really, really bad night for Toronto. Of course, not getting a hard on for that.
All right. So good,
Paul George. They should change their nickname now to We the Cold from Outside.
All I'm saying is, after maybe game 5 and they're still sucking balls, then we talk about it. Like, oh my God, they're awful. But come on, one game. Let's relax, everybody.
DeMarre Carroll is on a minutes restriction.
These games matter, Mo. It's not the regular season. Every game matters now.
If this games matter, you guys are the ones like, I think we should bench Steph Curry next game.
Okay, guys, these games matter now. DeMarre Carroll is on a minutes restriction, about 20 a game. Should Dwayne Casey rethink this and be like, okay, we may need him on the floor a little bit more?
I mean, if DeMarre Carroll is your reason between winning and losing, you're screwed, man. It doesn't. I mean,
but you mean this? Don't you think that his defense could affect Paul George?
Gino, I take it a step further. I just throw double teams at Paul George and get the ball out of his hands and make someone else beat you.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean
I think DeMarre Carroll has to show that he can run with the first unit again and that he's healthy. Right. Norman Powell, his substitute, has been fine towards the end of the regular season anyway. Yeah. Plus, they're such a deep team that to have your first 5, that's where your firepower. But your second 5 out there, they're no. It's not chopped liver either. They got a deep squad there. And
chopped liver. Wow, where'd you get that one from?
Wow. Didn't they say this is crappy? But all right. Their second unit's fine, and having Carroll there is just an addition. I think the rotation is solid.
Okay, so poor performance from the Raptors. Solid performance by Paul George. But aside from Paul George, I mean, we all I guess agree that he had a great game. But
unbelievable game, one of the greatest in history.
Are there? Who are the other individual I guess stars so far that we've seen in the postseason, and at least in the first couple games of the playoffs? Who stands out the most for you guys?
Yeah, for me, it was Jeff Teague, because this is the guy coming into the season. There was so much expectations going on him, especially from last season, and he didn't have the season he wanted. A bunch of nagging injuries here and there, just never played like the guy he was supposed to be. And to come out and play the way he did in a tightly contested game in Game 1 versus the Celtics, he's my guy. I got to give him so much credit for stepping up when it counted.
Especially a guy that was so close to being traded come deadline. All of a sudden, it's so valuable here in the first game of the playoffs. Mine would be Serge Ibaka. I mean, I know that he might not be the sexy name he used to be in OKC's rotation, but boy, he was shot 7 for 8 from the field, 9 rebounds, 17 points, 3 blocks. He had 3 for 3 from 3-point range. If Ibaka can kind of get back to that game that we saw him, for the past 2 seasons, Man, this Oklahoma, oh my God, this Oklahoma City team is going to be pushing the Warriors for the finals, man. If we can get an Ibaka of old with that firepower,
and I completely agree with you. I think Ibaka showed up for the first time in a long time, but partly that's because Westbrook specifically was deferring to him, looking for him, was aggressively trying to find him and playing real sort of facilitator, real playmaker in this particular game.
Good for this game, but good for Ibaka's psyche. He was complaining about the shots not being
absolutely. But what I was going to say was the difference here is that, and why I liked this performance from Westbrook. What really impressed me with him is once they had blown them out, he stopped trying to do everything. He stopped trying to do too much. He stopped trying to sort of be the everything man. And that's why I think Westbrook might actually become even more dangerous as this series and then going into the next round becomes. It's like the more Westbrook finds everyone else for easy baskets and gets everyone involved, specifically Ibaka, the more I think Westbrook, takes even on a sort of another step. His game becomes even greater because the points, the scoring, the shots will always be there. But Westbrook, to carve guys up with passes, I mean, how the hell are you going to even...
He'll be less predictable and so much more dangerous.
Man, Westbrook coming at you at full speed, jumping up. He's doing that little mid-range pull-up, and all of a sudden he's hitting a cutter, and then Ibaka's going to throw down some sort of dunk, or Adams is going to be there, or Durant, whatever it is, filling the lane. I just think, what I saw from Westbrook, he gets my vote for what was most impressive for me in the opening night, because we saw a different kind of Westbrook, and I like to see that from him.
All right, cool. Good choices from everyone. Now I want to, I guess, change gears here a little bit, but the Spurs completely dominated the Grizz, and I think that's the way it's going to be for 4 games. Probably, you see this sense of urgency a little bit from San Antonio that I don't think they're going to take a night off in the playoffs like they kind of do.
Got to be careful, Memphis, man. They're goons. They're going to hurt somebody if they get embarrassed.
Oh, man.
And the reason why is because, Tim Duncan who is going to be turning 40 years old next week. Ginobili's 38. Parker's only 33, but he's had some injury problems throughout his.
33.
He's an old 33. I mean, those ankles and knees of his are a lot older than a 33 than a normal 33-year-old. So I guess there was a question posted. There was a question out there about this big three of San Antonio. We all know that Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge, they're coming in, and there's kind of like a changing in the guards kind of scene happening in San Antonio. So there was the question put out there that this could possibly be the last championship window for this trio. What are your thoughts?
It has to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
Duncan's gone
like,
after this season.
Every year,
Duncan's gone.
Every year we write them off. Can't be San Antonio's year. It can't be San Antonio's year. They can't do it again. They can't do it again. But this has to be it. And Duncan will most likely at 40. I mean, is Duncan really going to play till he's 45? I mean, this has to be kind of his last. What we're not going to see is we're not going to see Duncan take 50 shots in his last game. That's what we're not going to see.
Sure.
And
he took 4 shots.
The fact, yeah, exactly. He's the opposite of Kobe. So what we'll find is this might be their last chance. And if that's the case, if they can somehow win the title, then good for them. I think Duncan goes out on top as a champion, which he already is. But, I think they have to really look at this. There has to be a real sense of urgency. I think they have to know that Father Time is, knocking on that door, and this may be the last legit performance or last legit sort of, run that they have with these three as their primary or secondary sort of force. And, if you're San Antonio, if you're Buford, if you're, running this organization from a general manager standpoint, you have to be looking at these guys losing their effectiveness.
Right. I mean, like you said, you got a nice duo kind of waiting in the wings to take over, but you're going to need those complementary players as well. So this has to be it. Yep.
And if Duncan and Ginobili retire after this season, hey, it gives them cap space and the ability to maybe sign Kevin Durant. Who knows?
Oh, wow.
Another Kevin Durant destination. Wow. Wow. Imagine he should play for every team. All right, we gotta get out of here. That's it for us tonight. Great show, I think, for us for this playoff season. So it was nice. Yep, Brad.
I was just going to say, look, Shaq thinks Durant's going to LA, right? So why as well just throw a bunch of teams out there and see what happens.
Sure. He's going to Brooklyn. He looks good in that jersey. We got to get out of here, so let's go ahead and say our goodbyes. So I guess go around the room. Last line, plug your accounts. You know how we do. Let's start with you, Jinno in Manila. What's up?
Paul George, superstar. How about that? Gino Rufino, at Gino Rufino, JINNORUFINO, Twitter and Instagram.
Sure. Brad.
You can follow me on Twitter at BackpackBaller. Thanks for your questions and interactions, and I'll do my best to stay on top of it all.
All right. What about you, Chris?
At not Bill Walton is the feed. I will be live tweeting the NBA playoffs. And sorry, this weekend I put up stinkers like DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, but I'll be back to show how my superstar status works out.
Sure. All right. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DJ Mo Twister. We'll see you guys again on Wednesday night for more playoff basketball talk, of course, here on the Full Court Report. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks to our staff. Thanks to our listeners also, by the way, who interact with us, as Brad said. Have a good night, guys. Bye-bye.